Welcome to the 2021 CII-CURT Joint Conference, the first major event brought to you by both organizations under one roof. In the true spirit of collaboration, we are excited to bring CII and CURT members together to celebrate the resilience of your companies and projects at the first in-person event for our industry in over a year. The CII-CURT Joint Conference explores both state-of-the-art technologies emerging across the capital projects industry and proven best practices to improve the project lifecycle. You will learn from inspirational keynote presentations, informative case studies, and practical technical sessions. Don't miss the Innovation Showcase, bringing together thought leaders, subject matter experts, solution providers, and exhibitors, immersing you in the latest information with a floor plan that encourages networking. Our industry demands emerging solutions, and our collective resilience through innovation will usher in a new chapter of inspiring benefits for the capital project industry. And this is the value that only CII and CURT can deliver.
Our slide, Jim.
We're here.
I know.
Good morning, everyone.
How is everyone?
Oh, we can do better than that. Come on. Good morning, everyone. All right. Now we're going.
All right. Welcome to the 2021 joint conference between CII and CURT. I am Doug Omachinsky. I'm the current chair for the executive committee with CII.
And I'm Jim Ellis. I'm the chair for the CURT Board of Directors, and I'm with Microsoft as a corporate VP. Let's get this thing started here. First, we really appreciate you all being here today. This is the first ever joint event, as it said in the video. And we've come together to produce this world-class event to further our construction industry.
You know, it's hard to believe that the last event that we had together was the national conference, the CURT National Conference in Phoenix about 18 months ago. And it seemed like right after that conference, our world changed.
Yeah, so as CURT and CII come together for the very first time in this event, we're going to talk about this power of the alliance. You're going to hear a lot more about it as we go through the course of the next several days. We're really excited, and this is really the first image that we have of us working and collaborating together right here on the stage. So we want to start off, as always, guys. Safety is at the cornerstone of everything we do. It's paramount, I know, to everyone in this room and to each of your organizations. So let's start off with just a little bit of logistics. We're in the conference room here. There are no scheduled alarms that we're aware of. If there are, we'll certainly alert each and every one of you that there's going to be a test or whatever. But should there be any reason that we have to kind of rally, doors are open in the back. Straight out, down the steps, outside to the muster point. If we happen to be sitting into the display area, right? And any reason for emergency, it's a little bit different. We again go out the doors, straight out, go straight through the doors to the muster point. You don't have to go down the steps, it's straight out to the front. So please take that and kind of walk through it to make sure you understand, your whereabouts here as you kind of navigate through the first part of your morning.
So we want to assure you that we've looked at every safety precaution when putting this conference together, right up till the very last day when the final agendas were put together. We are taking every precaution and under the advice of the local supervisors, the county supervisors, and so every mandate that we are hearing from Orange County has been incorporated into this conference.
So guys, in public spaces, we really like to see you wear your mask. That's something that we think is necessary for each of you to protect yourselves, but also your coworkers and colleagues here. So please give that strong consideration.
And there's hand sanitizer stations. Everyone knows for the last 18 months, I'm sure we've all been using a lot of hand sanitizer. So continue to do that at this conference.
And if you don't have a disposable mask, there are masks that are outside. Go off to the left here at the booth, and you'll be able to pick up a mask if you don't have one.
If you noticed, this year we've made you very comfortable at your tables. Those are 8-foot tables with only 2 chairs per table. So this is for your safety, but I like to think it's for your comfort also.
Excellent. And the doors, you can see, the doors are going to remain open in the ballroom, so we get good airflow as well through the room here today.
Yeah. And also, importantly, if you are feeling ill, if you do have a cough, if you do have a fever, please seek medical attention, and please refrain from coming to the conference if it is something serious. We do appreciate that. So let's talk safety. The results of the CII-CURT safety survey for 2020. All I can say was it was very interesting, the data that was received. When you look at 2019, there was roughly 2.7 billion hours worked. When you look at 2020, you're looking at 1.2 billion hours worked. So a difference of 1.5 billion from 2019 to 2020. And so this could be related to COVID. I know that at Bechtel, we were down about 40% in our hours worked. So same number of companies, member companies reported their safety data, but the numbers of, or the hours we worked in 2020 were substantially down. So what did that translate to as far as recordable rate? We're seeing an uptick. We're seeing an uptick, a substantial uptick, an over 70% uptick in our recordable rate for the member companies. I guess we could hypothesize why we saw that uptick. When you're not working 1.5 billion hours, that's a substantial number of hours that's not included in the formula. But we all know that we had to adjust for COVID. We had to adjust the way we worked. We had to adjust the way we formulated our working crews, our work phase. And in some cases, we didn't have a work front. We didn't have people at the work front because of either quarantine or the pandemic. So a lot of theories, but we just didn't work the hours. Fortunately, we also saw an uptick in the fatalities, a 6% uptick in fatalities, categorized in the falls area, and then also in the contact with objects or equipment area.
So how many here in the room have downloaded the app? Great, many hands. So this is important to really kind of get the most out of the experience here as you go through the conference. The agenda's there, the speaker bios are there, the photos are there, the sponsor information is all there, the event facility maps will help to guide you through, and also the session Q&A is actually there and more.
Also, please use the hashtag as shown on the screen. This is to be able to collect the pictorial history of this conference so that we can share that with our member companies.
And then we do have a Wi-Fi available in the room, good access. You see it there, the network is CII-CURT, and the password, all capital, right? CII 2021, and then CURT. So with that, we'd like to invite the distinguished Greg Palmer to take us through the questioning. Got to give you a demo here.
Good morning. If I could convince you to take your phone or your tablet or whatever device you're using to access the app and go to this morning's session. So you open the app, click schedule, scroll down to CII-CURT Joint Conference Opening Session, and you should see a section entitled Live Q&A. And if you could just type a question or two in there so we see that you guys are able to do that quickly and easily, and you can do this at any time during any presentation as a question comes to mind. Somebody just texted me or asked, good morning, does this work? Yes, so they're coming in by the dozens, so yes, you guys are good hands at that. So if you can do that for every session as you think of a question, put those in there as soon as you think of it, and they will be compiled and ready to be asked when Q&A happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
So let's move on with the conference. It's my pleasure to introduce the president of CURT, Greg Sizemore.
And it's my pleasure, on behalf of CURT, to introduce Stephen Mulva, Director for CII. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
You need the clicker?
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Mulva.
How are you, Greg?
It's good to share a stage with you again.
Absolutely.
And thank you all for being with us today. We are excited that you're here. Look at the person on your left or your right and say, I've thought it over, and you ain't half bad. Go ahead right now. Okay, once you have been cheered, I trust that you'll be chaired, and we're going to share with you some secret sauce. And if you're wondering what that is, Mr. Mulva is going to share that with you right now. Stephen?
Thanks, Greg. We're here to talk about the Alliance, and we have some slides. I think they're attempting to pull them up at the back now. This has been going on for close to a year now, and we want to talk about this proposed alliance. It is proposed. We still have some approvals. Greg will talk about that in a moment. But we're really excited about this. We've been talking to all our member companies, both at CII and CURT, about it. So give me just 1 second while they pull up the different slides.
We're looking for the presenter node, Sam. Here we go. Thank you. I appreciate it. By the way, I think it's very appropriate for the first event out of the starting block to give our tech team, our production team, Terry Bouvia, Jenny, Deborah, Greg Palmer, Aaron Hujar, let's give them an applause in advance for the good work that we know that they've done to get you here. How about it? Let's give it up for that team. Thank you so much. Stephen?
Thanks, Greg. So, yeah, it's great to see everybody. Also wanted to add my welcome to you to the first ever CII-CURT joint conference. I think it's important to recognize CII and CURT have always had a great relationship, but our collaboration with each other has increased substantially over the last 5 years, working on some very specific activities, which really brings us to this joint conference and this idea of an expanded alliance. So our purpose this morning is really to provide an overview of this exciting new development. Greg.
And again, I want to welcome you again to this joint conference. We're excited. This is a historic event, frankly, and it will be one of several to come in the years ahead of us. We're excited that you're here. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for coming out. I also want to tell you that CII and CURT have worked seamlessly for over a year to provide a unique experience with great content here at this event. And it's further evidence that the Alliance has terrific potential. It is a powerful match to bring an owners group together that has the effectiveness that it does with a world-class research organization. And we believe that can be an explosive energy in a positive direction for you, your organization, our organizations, and frankly for the industry. It's about game change, and you're the first to hear it. As Stephen mentioned, and you see on your slides, in 2017, CURT and CII began a relationship that has brought us to this point. We began attending some CII events more deliberately. We invited Stephen to attend some of our events more deliberately. And we've worked on things, as you can see here, such as the safety benchmarking portal, the productivity data, and the productivity portal, as well as Operating System 2.0. Many of you have heard about that. And the subsequent Prairie Dog organization that seeks to be the implementation tool of it. The Voice magazine we've created a collaboration in, and certainly multiple speaking engagements such as this. So this is where the situation becomes 1 and 1 doesn't equal 3, as you've heard your whole life. We want 1 and 1 to be 11, to be exceedingly abundantly above what your expectation could be of our alliance. And the secret ingredients of this success is the trust and the mutual appreciation that we've developed for each other, for each other's teams, and for each organization over the course of these last several years. Stephen?
So I just wanted to add, really, this has been a great working relationship. And I think this collaboration works on so many levels. But the key question comes up, why are we doing this? Why are we pursuing this alliance? And why now? I think it's primarily because CURT and CII at the core are really very complementary. CII, we're a department at the University of Texas, so we have the mission to create innovations through academic and university-based research. CURT has always had the mission to help its members and disseminate these industry innovations at events such as this one, and to assist organizations such as yours so that you can really realize the benefits of these innovations. But the Alliance is also a response to the times that we're living in. People's ability to participate in organizations such as ours have really been constrained, and that's evidenced really over the last 18 months. We looked at our members. A lot of them have had reductions in their budgets or their staffing levels. And when I was talking with Greg and we were working together, we really recognized that we were even inadvertently competing with each other for the members' attention. And we were doing a lot of the same activities. And so it was kind of logical that this might come together. And that's despite the fact that both CII and CURT have fared incredibly well over the last 18 months. We really were not impacted financially. We didn't lose members through this. It's just that we really saw this great opportunity to build an even greater venue in this alliance and deliver better value for you personally, and for your organization. But it's important to point out that this is not a merger. The best analogy we've found for this is that of an airline alliance, separate organizations coming together, collaborating to do what they do best, and that is to provide a great and seamless experience for their customer.
So, like the Airline Alliance, there are managing partners, and we explored what that hub would look like over the course of last summer, frankly. And the conclusion was that collectively, if we're going to leverage the capabilities of both organizations, that the hub would be exclusively CURT and CII in research and in implementation and value creation for you in very specific ways. And it's quite exciting. But we realized that we can do anything, but we can't do everything. Airlines will tell you, we'll take you anywhere. But our airline can't take you everywhere. So in the concept and in the spirit of that airline alliance, we've decided that in addition to the hub, there need to be a number of alliance partners. We don't know who they are particularly right now, although we've talked to several, so it would be premature to tell you about those. But I can tell you there's a great deal of excitement about being a part of the CURT-CII alliance. And we're ready to bring them in here in the next several months so they can assist us to take us anywhere we need to go. Obviously, we can't take you everywhere, but we intend to take you anywhere. We've been working on this now for over a year, and we've studied the alliance from every angle. I want to tell you a little bit about our progress to date, as you see on the slide. Earlier this year, we convened several work teams. There were 7 actually. And these 7 work teams were challenged to think, what's possible with a new alliance? What if was the question that we asked them to consider. And the value that we are delivering must be obvious to the industry. It must be obvious to your member. There must be a decoupling of duplication so we can engage each organization to do what each does best. I don't know if this is your quote, Stephen, or not. I often attribute it to you, but our industry's improvement has been a mystery, wrapped in an enigma and shrouded in bureaucracy. And I'm sure we can get a lot of yay and amens in this room about that statement, but we want to put an end to that perception of your industry and who you are, unleashing industry improvements in a very meaningful way, taking the best of both organizations and other organizations, literally, from around the world, and making them a part of this new journey experience. We feel a little bit like John F. Kennedy must have felt when he announced that we were going to the moon and back by the end of the decade and didn't have a clue where to start. Well, we're a little bit further than that this morning, but the mission is still quite daunting, and we're going to need everyone's engagement to make it happen. Stephen?
Thanks, Greg. So what I've got here is kind of a detailed diagram. You probably expect that from me by now. But don't worry, you can't read everything on the slide. I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour to this. So right in the middle of the diagram, there's a green or a gray arrow. And what it's basically talking about is the vision that we have for this alliance. And what we wanted to do is different than in the past. We wanted to start with a really great understanding of what you need to improve your capital projects, and to do that through some dedicated market intelligence or market research to understand the gaps in project performance. And we want to do that together. So the alliance parts are shown in purple. Once we understand what the gaps are, we want to transition that into CII-led research type activities, and those would be shown in blue. Following that, and almost simultaneously, deployment comes along, and that would be led by CURT, and that's shown in red. And then CURT will help design these implementation pathways, and so we call that our deployment pipeline. But one noteworthy aspect of this is that we've defined deployment in 3 different things. So knowledge, having knowledge is good, know-how, and then products and services. And so you might be familiar for CII and CURT, it's always been knowledge and know-how. We're adding the products and services as well. So several years ago, CII actually defined deployment as bringing resources into effective action, and that's what we're trying to do. So that happens at the far right of the diagram in purple. We want to bring the resources to you that will ensure your success in deploying and in using these, I'll say, historical and even nascent emerging innovations. And we want to do that in an environment that's non-exclusive, and it's completely optional. It's up to you if you want to do that or not. Because self-help is always an option, but so is consultant-led or even dedicated offerings such as products and services. And so all of those things will be on the table. Over the top, the diagram has an umbrella because that's showing a coordinated approach to all the administration required from membership to communications, operations, and events. Greg.
Thanks, Stephen. Let me address the timeline for the Alliance. So this thing isn't happening in a vacuum. There are several stakeholders who have great interest in where we're going, what we're doing, how we're doing it, how much it will cost, how long it will take, and what it will take. And CURT and CII, while forming the Alliance, will be viable, standalone organizations, primarily because we need what those organizations represent to bring you into the decision-making process with us, to populate the committees, the communities of practice, etc. So we know that we've got our finger on the pulse of the industry. So the Alliance is not a separate industry, and as Stephen mentioned, nor is it a merger. We're going to have these 2 strong organizations primarily to engage you, the men and women in this room, bar none, no one excluded. But as we go through, we have to do our due diligence. And there are a number of groups you can see on your screen. The groups that have already completed an endorsement, the CII Board of Advisors is in progress. The Executive Committee has been completed. The UT at Austin group has been advised of what we're doing, and they are now bringing that under advisement. And the CURT Board of Directors has completed its endorsement. Where we're going from here, beginning the day after we leave this conference, is the CII Board of Advisors will begin to finish their process, University of Texas as well, and when the final arrangements are made, the CURT Board of Directors and the CII groups will then endorse what we've proposed or recommend changes in what we've proposed. So we really envision at least a 2-year phase-in schedule so that the members can budget appropriately. There'll be some dues adjustments, but the goal is to create dues adjustments that finance the alliance, finance the organizations that are fair to you, so we can support the various responsibilities that the alliance creates. Stephen?
So when we put this together, thanks, Greg, our goal is to really support everything that we're doing and to concentrate on what CII and CURT individually do best. So for CII, it's a really strong focus on research and innovation and on these university-based educational opportunities such as our, I'll say, award-winning executive leadership program. Also, a focus on the sector objectives and the administrative support around information services, membership, and communications. For CURT, a little different. We want to build on their success in deployment and events. So CURT's a 501c6 non-for-profit. That actually enables them to coordinate the resources that you're going to need to help realize maximum benefits from these innovations. So we also want them to help with some of the administration, leading member support and aspects of administration such as events and communications. In the middle of that other diagram, wow, where did that go? Is sort of our alliance approach. So together, we're going to have an alliance advisory team to help do some market research and some other items.
You'll also notice that one side is blue and one side is red. We wanted to convey that even with the staging here today. In the middle, of course, it creates the color purple. And it's, again, to symbolize a coming together, a melding together of the resources of both organizations. Stephen did notice coming in, he said, why is red on the right for CURT and blue is on the left? So we got a little chuckle about that, Sam. Stephen?
I'm losing track of where we are here. Yeah, so I think we want to look at the matrix. So what we've got up here.
One slide back, please, Sam. One slide back, please. Thank you. There we go, Stephen. Let's pick it up there.
All right, so here, this is how we want where the rubber meets the road. We have a series in columns. It's a matrix. The columns are deployment committees full of subject matter experts. And they'll interface with volunteers from the sectors, and those are the rows shown in purple. And basically, we want that collaboration to exist because most people either identify as a subject matter expert in an aspect of capital projects or in working in a particular sector. So we're trying to bring that expertise right to where it's needed most. Okay, so we'll take some questions in a moment, but to close out the presentation, we wanted to really highlight what's in it for you. And Greg mentioned it's 1 + 1 is not 3, but 11. And so unlike before, we're going to start with some market insights to, as I said, to really understand those gaps in the planning and execution of projects. And then we'll work together to do the research and to develop the deployment resources that you're going to need to use to maximize the benefit on your projects.
Okay, what's more, what we really want to do is avoid duplication. We've all wrestled with that over the years. Do I go to the CURT conference? Do I go to the CII conference? Should I be a member of CURT? Should I be a member of CII? And we know that through the pandemic that the appetite for multiple event attendance by same people has changed. We've discovered that we can virtually and digitally do business. And the T&L budgets have been adjusted in many organizations to reflect that. So we want to make sure we are maximizing the time, the talent, and the treasure for your organization. We want to streamline the calendar events, and we want a one-stop shop for communication and for news, and we're even anticipating an Alliance Anywhere concept, 24/7, 365 access to products and services, resources and other things that you can access anywhere in the world at any time for any reason. We're highly excited about this, and we're highly excited to take your questions at this point. So if you will get your app and go into the question asking process, as Palmer has pointed out to you, I will take some questions. So the first question is, what impact does the Alliance have on our dues? Stephen, you want to take a gander at that? What impact will the Alliance have on our dues?
So we're going to have, basically it would be, even though there's two separate organizations, the members would be Alliance members. And so there's a coordinated one overall dues strategy. And basically it sits in between, I'll say, where the CII and the CURT dues are. So we've studied that extensively. More details will be forthcoming as we go through the fall. But it will mean probably a slight increase for some people and also a price decrease for other people. We're not intending to tier the dues structure. And we're also going to provide a number of years, as Greg mentioned, for people, if they're ramping up or ramping down, for them to move in those directions.
Another question asks, what does the productization and commercialization of products look like? I think that would be a good one for you to swing at as well, Stephen.
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions about this. One of the problems with when we do this academic research and we create these innovations, if it's just a report that sits on a shelf, you don't really derive the value out of that. So, and as I mentioned, there's three ways that you can get the value out of that. So one is you take the knowledge and, self-help, you do something with it, but that's become increasingly difficult. So sometimes you need to bring in somebody with know-how. And this could be consultants, it could be service providers, EPC firms that really understand these concepts and these leading edge practices. And so those two have always been the means by which these innovations get implemented. But increasingly, the innovations should be embedded in the products and services that you use. So we don't want this to be additive. It's not something else that the project has to do. It's something integral to what the project is doing, and these innovations are embedded. So if we come up with a new way to do modularization, it's embedded in the service that you're buying maybe from an EPC firm. If we come up with an invention on collaborative scheduling, it's embedded in the scheduling software that you're using. And that does require, because these are copyrights that are part of our organizations, it does require some licensing activity. Now, there's a question about how do we do that. So most of the time we want that to be a member service, or for an Alliance member. You'll get that as a member of the Alliance. Occasionally, though, it does have to be licensed. And so one of the things that we're working on right now are a series of educational modules. Those have a license because there's probably 15 or 20 different I'll say CII tools that are embedded in those educational modules. So depending on what it is, it'll either be licensing or a member service.
What will the primary role of an Alliance partner be, and is there a limited number of Alliance partners anticipated?
I think we can have as many Alliance members as possible. The key is that now you're not confined either on the research side of the fence or I'll say the deployment side of the fence. Like we're bringing, this is the best of both. And actually this is better than a merger because of the way that CII and CURT are already structured historically. This works extremely well. The other thing is we go out to the Alliance partners for specific things, whether it's research, events, a number of things, and we're still working to figure all that out. That'll become more clear and more detail as we go forward. But the Alliance members can put people on research teams, can put people on deployment committees and sector groups. There's really, sky's the limit.
Another question asks, what is the primary avenue for my engagement as a member of the Alliance? I think we dealt with that for the industry sectors and the communities of practice and the committees.
Right.
What we anticipate is providing opportunities, as I mentioned, in the various industry sectors. You may recall that slide a few minutes ago that had the communities of practice. We call them committees. One of the things I might add is that we're trying to create new nomenclature so that those folks who are experienced in both organizations don't say, well, okay, that's the CII thing or that's the CURT thing. We want it to be the Alliance approach to problem solving. So we don't want to get crazy or wacky with the new nomenclature, but we are giving a lot of time and attention to what we're calling communities of practice, Is it neighborhoods? Is it committees or whatnot? But your primary role and engagement will be through those avenues that will work together with the research, the market research, the academic research, and the deployment, the kind of product or service that's needed in the industry. And that's where we're going to tap into your industry expertise and your creative thinking. A final question, and we hit on it briefly, but how realistic is a Q1 2022 start time?
I think it's probably pretty realistic. I mean, there's obviously an over-under on that. I think we've done a lot of work to communicate exactly how this will roll out. There's still a few more details, and that will happen as we go through the fall in the various board of advisors and board of directors meetings at the respective organizations. Greg mentioned the different endorsements and approvals that are required for that. But there's also an intensive communications effort so that everybody in the industry, not just our collective members, but everybody in the industry really starts understanding what this looks like, what the potential is, why it is 1 + 1 = 11. And I think, we're already seeing that, the vast majority of everybody that we're talking to are, sure, there's some concerns, but they're very supportive of how this is going to work. So we're hopeful to do that. There'll be a series of opportunities, webinars, virtual meetings, and in-person meetings as we go through the fall to work out the final details.
Final question, we have time for a couple of more, is how will this impact the roles and responsibilities of the staff members of the various organizations?
So this is something that we've really focused on. We're extremely fortunate to have very complementary staffs. This conference is a perfect example of it. We haven't had an event producer at CII for a while, and so the relationship working with Palmer and the CURT staff with our events team at CII has been great. It's been perfectly seamless. Even though we're located in Austin and Cincinnati, we've all learned, as you have, how to work on Teams and Zoom, and it's gone extremely well. So that's a good thing, and we both have very good staffs, but they're complementary. There may be some staff augmentation in both directions. So you may see some Austin-based CII staff members that are helping with some of the activities that CURT will be doing, mainly around deployment, and vice versa. You may see CURT employees helping us with, obviously, membership and communications and some things like that. So when the Alliance members pay the dues, it basically comes into a central repository and then is allocated to the two organizations to oversee and work on the various things. And that would include how we compensate our staff that work with these deployment committees and these research teams, the sector committees, so on and so forth.
What is the greatest challenge to the forward momentum that these groups have created? While we certainly support what you're doing, there have to be some detractors and obstructionists in your future. Do you care to comment on those?
Do you want to comment on that?
There are, with every advancement, there's resistance, but it's what makes the plane fly, right? So if we're not getting resistance, if we're not getting detractors, I dare say we're not dreaming big enough. We're not going far enough. We're not going fast enough. So to our detractors and the obstructionists out there among us, and there are, we say bring it on. Not in an arrogant way, but in a way to deal with the objection, to help us to circumspectly deal with the objection or the challenge or whatever it is they might present and move ahead. Again, every advancement has its detractors and its obstructions, and we intend to fly, and so we welcome that input that allows us to think even more creatively about the problems we're solving, the way we're doing it, how we're spending our limited talent of time, our limited resources of time talent, and treasure. Anything to add, Stephen?
Well, I mean, we still may have some blind spots here. I think that's
Right.
why we do want to hear from
Right.
everybody. We can't presume to know exactly at a detail, intimate level your business and what your organization wants from this alliance and from the respective organizations that will be part of it. So that's why we need to hear from you. The other thing that I'll say about this is we've kind of discovered over the last year that it really boils down to communication. So that's the void that we have to speak into, and why we're actually giving this presentation. A lot of times when people are like, I'm really upset about this thing, or I'm really concerned about that other thing, what we find out is we've actually been talking about that for quite a while. It's just that our public relations, communications engine isn't as fine-tuned as it will need to be in the Alliance. So we actually have plans for this fall to have a transition team and bring in some experts to help us with managing that transition, have a very robust communications strategy so that everybody's voice is heard. We want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard.
I think that's true, Stephen, and I think that's also one of the challenges. I keep a thimble in my briefcase, I keep one in the car consult, I keep one in my office. It's a constant reminder that in the ocean of God's wisdom, Sizemore only has a thimbleful of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And so do you. And so what a lot of our time is spent doing is how can we extract from you your thimbleful of wisdom and bring it to the collective for a greater result, a more efficient result, a more streamlined result. And that's the goal, and that's the mindset, which is why over the past several years it has been very important to develop a mutual appreciation and understanding of each group, not only Stephen and I, but our staffs and our members, and also the trust that accompanies it. It is not unlike any other massive team building exercise. Those are foundational. We have achieved those. And now it's time to move forward with your help and the next steps as we've lined them out here to you this morning. I'd also like to take a moment and welcome those who are watching us from online. There are several dozen people who we've created an online for option. It was created quite late, but we have several dozen people online, and I want to acknowledge them again this morning as they're watching this event online and are able to participate with the Q&A. And I also want to thank you for your attendance, for your participation, for engaging with the Q&A. That's all we have time for right now. Stephen, any closing remark?
Well, no, we're going to transition to our first keynote speaker, and I think it's really appropriate that we do it this way. What we're talking about in this alliance, it represents a disruption, as I mentioned, to the way that CURT and CII have done business for 2, 3, and 4 decades. It's a disruption, it's a change, but that's actually how you can create value and create specific value for things that are really important to you. So our keynote speaker for this morning is Ian Kahn. We're really looking forward to his comments. He's going to talk about how you move the journey and how you move from disruption to value creation. So I think it's really an appropriate keynote. Again, welcome to the conference. We're so glad that you're here and hope you have a great time.
Great. Thank you very much.
I see the world in a different way, and you need to see what I see. We must recognize that we came from a very good place. As humans, as people, as a society, as a race, we've been amazing so far, and we should love us. But nothing remains the same forever. Change is a constant. We live on the belief that tomorrow will be better, don't we all? To get there, we must walk on a specific path and not just choose short-term happiness, but create sustainable success. We must start thinking differently, start thinking loud, start thinking big. The time to do that is now, right now, because tomorrow is being created right this moment. Come join me. Let's build the future together, right now, right here, today.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Kahn, and I will spend approximately the next 1 hour with you. Now, I want to talk about a couple of things as to how we will be in this session, enjoy this session. First of all, shut down your email. Do not email back and forth unless you're like a lifeline for somebody and people are depending on the other side. Shut it down, right? You've traveled so far, you've gone through so many security checks and tests and whatnot. Let's shut down the external world and focus on what we can in this session today, right now, right here. Because time is precious. And all this networking, the people you're here with, is not going to happen next week because we are all here. So please, please, please do that. I encourage you to take notes. I encourage you to doodle. I encourage you to strategize about the next 6 months to 60 years in this session. So I'm going to talk about immediate disruption. I might ask you questions, and that's what I do. I'm going to pinpoint you and ask you questions because I want to understand the challenges and the problems and the opportunities. In my session, I'll talk about many different things and very little about the actual construction industry, actually what you do on a daily basis. But we'll talk about bigger things that can change the way you do business. So who's with me? Say aye. Oh, that was so weak. Come on, who's had breakfast? Say aye. Aye. Thank you so much. So let's talk about transformation, disruption, and all of that. This is me in a very quick snapshot. I do a bunch of different things from speaking about the future to making documentary films about the future, about cryptocurrency, blockchain, artificial intelligence. I'm a published author. I teach at a couple of universities. So there's a lot of activity happening right there. Let's skip past this. So I was investigating the industry, and I said, hey, what is the history of your industry? Well, apparently, I dug deep. $1.4 million, 1.75 million years. That's the first evidence of human beings constructing something, right? I would say you're in an industry that's really, really well established. I speak with some industries that are 500 years old. Accounting industry, 500 years old. But you guys kill it. You guys are awesome. So thank you for doing that. Now, let's talk about disruption. Forbes magazine says that by the 2020s, which is now, technology will disrupt different industries in a way it has never done in the last 500 years. Now, we know computers and technology that we're seeing right now have just started maybe 3, 4, 5 decades ago, right? 25 years ago, we didn't have cell phones. We were living in a fax world, and many of you probably are still living in that world, but it's time to move on. But what's happening is that technology is moving at a much faster pace, and I'm going to show you how fast it's moving and where is it going in the next few decades. It's very important to understand that. With respect to your industry, with respect to the construction industry and all of that, McKinsey says that the industry is stuck with productivity. It's stuck at levels that from the 1960s, and it's just not happening. It's struggling. Do you think that's happening? If you think so, say yes. I want to understand it from you. Yes, it is. Okay, good, good. Well, at least we know what the problem is. Now we can solve it, right? So it's important to know the problem. And so that's a big challenge. Let me tell you about some other things that are potentially hitting not just your industry, but everybody. It's one of the things that's happening now is the Great Resignation. People are quitting their jobs. People don't want to go back to their job after the COVID-19 pandemic. They're fed up because, you know what? The workplace doesn't understand their needs. The workplace is too focused on what they want to do. They don't understand what employees want, and you will see this thing potentially hitting your industry as well. It's called the Great Resignation. People now have a choice. They want to go and work for somebody else and do other things, and that's a problem for the industry. What do you do when there's no talent? What do you do when there's no people to work in the industry and fuel the economy and so on? So it's a challenge, one of the challenges. You also have something in terms of technology happening, something not good. A few weeks ago, a company called CII was hit by a ransomware attack, and which means hackers hacked into their networks and asked for a ransom. And it was in the tune of about $75 million to be paid in Bitcoin. Now, what is Bitcoin? And it's really confusing, right? I know that. But we're not going to go too deep into that. I just want to point out, this is a problem. You could be working on a mega project tomorrow, and guess what? The bad guys lock down your networks and say, hey, pay us $1 billion and we'll open it up for you. That's a challenge. It's a business disruption. What do you do to be prepared for that? And for those of you who are into mega projects or even smaller projects, this is crippling to business. So we've got to plan for that. And the same thing happened to Colonial Pipeline some time ago. And you might say, well, how does it impact people? Well, the Colonial Pipeline attack impacted people who were pumping gas. The CII attack impacted people who were buying groceries at a grocery store in Europe. And that's the impact. It trickles down to everyday common people. We've got to figure out what to do with this. So we'll do that today. And here are some key challenges of the industry. Contractors' financial health is under pressure, continuing risk to the pandemic, a cyber risk, labor shortages, safety risks, technology adoption. Now, it looks like this session is going to be very depressing. Do you think so? No, of course not. We'll talk about good things. We'll talk about what to do, what's happening around the world. So, the year was 2005, and this is the Holy See. Who's been to Rome? Who's been to the Vatican? Just a few people? Okay, folks, after this pandemic is over, you got to go to Rome, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And this was the year 2005 when a new pope was going to be put into place for all different reasons. This session is not about religion. I'm talking about an event taking place in the world, irrespective of religious beliefs. And you can see people are very emotional at that point. They're out with their cameras and they're waving flags and they're trying to take pictures, and they'll frame those pictures and tell their kids and grandkids about it, that, hey, I was there when history was being made. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw the smoke, right? And what happened next was the same event had to repeat itself after a few years, about 7 years, in 2013. But at this moment in time, the world had changed. The world had changed because of technology. The world had changed because now technology had taken grip on our everyday life. Mr. Steve Jobs and many others had created these devices that were a fundamental part of our life. And you can see a sea of devices that is in front of us, right? For those of you watching online, I hope you can see the screen, and I hope you can join us in understanding this moment. And so, undoubtedly, technology has taken a big grip on our lives, so much so that we cannot live without a cell phone. If any of you here are without a cell phone, I really salute you, right? But I doubt anybody's living without technology today. So how does that impact us? How does it change our world? Let's talk about revolutions. And I heard that it's not quite acceptable to talk about revolutions in the industry, that, hey, this is revolutionary, because not a lot of revolutions are taking place in your industry, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's talk about revolutionaries of our current times. So, who's that? Let's see if you know general knowledge here. Greta, excellent, amazing. Hey, this group seems very informed here. Thank you. Who's that? This is a trick question. William Wallace, amazing. I am in the right crowd. Thank you so much. All right, we all know who that is. Okay, what about all these people? You know everybody. You know everybody, right? I really consider all these people as revolutionaries, and you could have 100 more other people here based on who you think is a revolutionary, right? These people stood for change. They're doing something different. Many of them died for change. I think that's a good definition of a revolutionary. But what about the future? Because we're talking about the future in this session. Who's the revolutionary of the future? Is it going to be a person? Is it going to be a bunch of people? Well, it's my pleasure to announce the revolutionary of tomorrow in this session to this industry for the first time ever. So the revolutionary of tomorrow is going to be no other than the smart toilet. Yes, it is. It's going to be the smart toilet, and for a very good reason. It says that at the bottom, the smart toilet, the revolution is in your bathroom. How can that be? How can our lives go from revolutionaries who are dying for a cause to something that we're dying to do every day, right? What's going on? Let me tell you. First of all, this is a marvel in hardware technology. It's got virtual reality glasses, speaker system, heated seats, camera system pointed wherever it's pointed downwards. It's amazing. You have a choice of colors, right? But what would we be in today's era of technology if we didn't have an app? It also has an app that does amazing stuff. It does content analysis. It does that, yeah. For those of you struggling with weight loss or any of those issues, it has diet suggestions. For those of you on a keto diet, diet suggestions, right? Content analysis, diet suggestions. No more steaks, no more burritos, no more bad food. Contact your physician. In some case, something is wrong, it detects something, contacts your physician's calling back and saying, hey, you gotta come here right now because we saw something that shouldn't be there, okay? And best of all, because we're all a society, we're all social animals, track your friends. We can have a scoring system, we can have a rating system and a competition going on every day. But beyond that, ladies and gentlemen, and of course you can take a picture, you can flush and do all the other things, but beyond that, this is a revolution in healthcare. This is something that's going to reduce the time it takes to undergo testing from days and weeks to a matter of minutes. A matter of minutes. You have test results for some situations in a few minutes, right? And this device is already in a prototype mode. It's already being pilot tested in some parts of the world. I'm telling you, in some years, this will be available on Amazon, and many of you will say, hey, I need to buy this, because we all have those early adopters in our life, in the world. So you might be able to buy it and enjoy it. And maybe in the next 10 years, a lot of other people will buy it. Maybe in the next 30 years, this is a standard thing that's placed into buildings and offices and homes, right? That is the evolution and adoption of technology, right? This is the world we're heading into. And I could have many examples of technology here, but this is the one that I find really funny. But here is, so who's going to buy this device if you had the option? Just raise your hand, don't say anything. I want to see who's an early adopter here. We don't have many early adopters. Nobody? One hand? I got one hand. Okay, so I got one person, maybe two people in a group of about 300 to 400 people, right? We've got to increase the number of early adopters in this group, right? And you do that by just not thinking too much about things, right? You just do it. Just like you bought your first smartphone, you step into that early adopter category. Here's what's happening with technology over the last 8,000 years, right? The objective of this session, ladies and gentlemen, is to understand where we're headed so that we can do things right now in order to create the positive change. That's what this session is about. 8,000 years ago, our ancestors planted the first seeds in the ground, and out came a crop, and was born the agricultural revolution. 8,000 years ago, that's really, really far back in time. But 120, 150 years ago, we had the first industrial revolution, the invention of the steam engine, right? Before, people were using a hammer to break down things, but now they had a steam engine. They had power in a different way to move things, to transport things, to employ it in factories. We had the second industrial revolution, the invention of electricity. We had the third industrial revolution, the invention of a factory floor and automation and SCADA systems. And they say that we are in the fourth industrial revolution today, where human and machines are coming together in a way that has not been seen before. And we're looking forward to the fifth industrial revolution in maybe the next 10, 15 years, where artificial intelligence will automate the heck out of everything. It'll just automate everything we need. Blue-collar, white-collar jobs, automated. Bartenders, waiters, automated, right? Taxi drivers, automated. But that's still to come. And that's where the world is headed. The bottom part is a graph of microprocessor capacity over the years. And this is factual data. This is not a made-up or projected data. This is factual stuff on the last 100 years. This is where microprocessor capacity has gone from 100 years ago to where it's going now. So they said that by 2015, the microprocessor capacity surpassed that of the brain power of a mouse. Well, you might think, well, it's no big deal, right? But by the year 2025, 2023, in this decade, they're saying the microprocessor capacity of computing is going to exceed that of a human brain. Now it's getting serious. And by the year 2045, now these are projections, by 2045, if the pace of innovation and microprocessor capacity design goes the way it's going, by 2045, computing capacity of technology will be far greater than that of the combined brains of every human being in the world, right? We're looking at Terminator series of movies. We're looking at all these futuristic movies that we see if that happens by 2045. And that event could lead to something called a singularity, and there's many, many different theories about that. But the question is, if we just take this for 2 minutes, is that where we're headed, right? Is that where the world is going? Now, you might be thinking a lot of different things. What's going to happen to careers, jobs, business? Well, we're here to figure some of that out. There's a lot of change that's happening because of the pandemic, and in many ways, it's accelerating many different things, many different industries, and despite the challenges we've faced, we're seeing a revolution in healthcare, the healthcare industry, the future of work, education industry, manufacturing, retail, customer service, finance, entertainment, food services. Every business, every industry is changing because of the pandemic, because people are finding different ways to add value to those industries. Restaurants are moving from in-person to online dining. Retail has significantly moved from in-person shopping to online. And so these things are changing the way traditionally industries have worked, right? If we lock down the world right now and say, well, there's another pandemic or there's some other impact or effect or event happening, we would go to offline stuff just like that in 2 minutes because we know what to do now, right? Many industries know how to swap between the online and the other world. So we definitely have learned a few things. Here's an event that happened a few weeks ago, and I'd love to for you to watch this video. This is a major, major event, and I hope you saw it. So let's play the video, please.
The space race is officially on for billionaires. Richard Branson went first, but Jeff Bezos went further. A trip with their companies can cost anywhere between $250,000 and $28 million. We decoded what it takes to get rich people to space, and what it means for the future of space travel. Branson traveled on Virgin Galactic's space plane VSS Unity, which is powered by a rocket engine. It's 60 feet long, with a wingspan of 27 feet. The plane can rotate its wings and tail in what's called feathering. It mimics the aerodynamics of a badminton shuttlecock. Feathering helps with re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, and the wings can be rotated back to help the aircraft land. The flight on July 11th was Virgin Galactic's 4th crewed mission, but its first with a full staff. 2 pilots and 4 passengers were on board, including Branson. On the other hand, Blue Origin's New Shepard spacecraft is more like a traditional rocket. The crew capsule is attached to the top of a booster that includes an engine.
So we're not going to watch the full video, but
at the top and bottom help.
I just wanted to show you that something major has happened, and regular people, civilians, in this case billionaires, are going to space, right? They're going to space to do what? To explore space, and some of them are saying, Jeff Bezos said that we're going to go to space and outsource manufacturing to space so that we can manufacture things on different planets or maybe different celestial bodies and so on, right? This is a big thing that we are witnessing in our lifetime, and this is a big, big event. But it has just kicked off and started, so we really need to observe the world around us. Where is industry going? Where's everything else going, right? If you fast forward things and you literally take Jeff Bezos' word for what he's saying, does that mean in the next 10, 15, 20 years, we will actually have to construct structures on the moon or on Mars or some other planet and have buildings there? Like, really fast forward 20 years, right? Is that where we're going? I don't know, but that's something that's been kicked off. So we're living in incredible times because of technology. And the one thing that I can summarize with many of the things that I observe and we see happening is that change is constantly taking place. In fact, it's taking place faster and in a more rapid way than it has ever happened. So if you embrace the idea of change every single day, and when you go to work, you get up and say, hey, today something is going to change. I don't know what it is, but definitely something's going to knock at my door. Trust me, your day will be much more productive because you will be ready. And many times we are in pain and we suffer because we're not ready for change, right? We're not ready for disruption. So please, get ready for change every single day. Fundamental lesson here. Okay, let's move on from change to maybe the next 25 years. I want to touch a little bit on technology and simplify it so that we can actually relate to it. What are the key disruptors in the next 25 years? Let's talk about it. The first one is automation. Automation has been a disruptor for the last 25 to 50, but going forward, it's going to be much more. PwC says that transportation, storage, and manufacturing sectors will face the highest number of jobs lost to automation. Right? We're talking about an industry changing because automation is taking over the roles of people. We're not talking about people sitting at home and not having anything to do. We're talking about a process, a task being taken over by technology, and trust me, people have other things to do in the future. But that's happening, right? Because of the strides that are being made through technology. Number two, algorithms. Algorithms are what drives everything. Pedro Domingo, the author of The Master Algorithm, says that if every algorithm suddenly stopped working, it would be the end of the world as we know it right now, today. It would be the end of the world as we know it. Everything runs on algorithms. The telecommunication industry, the internet of things, electric cars, different systems, processes, everything is driven by algorithms, and it's just increasing every single day, right? And we're going to talk about a few other things, artificial intelligence and the relationship to all of this, but let's understand the bigger concept of that automation that's taking place that's going to be a big disruptor. There's also convergence, which is many different things come together. Hardware and software technologies come together. The Internet of Things comes together with artificial intelligence, comes together with algorithms. Just one single technology can't do it all. And so convergence is big. It has an impact on how we manufacture things, how we build things, how we do things, how transportation runs on city streets. A lot of that is dependent on convergence, and I will explain that in the next few minutes. We're also hearing a lot about this idea of decentralization, that let's take out the middle person. Let's take out the bank and have something called cryptocurrency. Let's take out the middle party and decentralize everything. It's an evolving concept. And Bloomberg says the future will be decentralized. And for us to understand these disruptions that I'm talking about, we need to talk about these actively every single day. You've got to build that curiosity. You have to be curious about all these things going forward in order to really be in with the times. They're also talking about experiential living, experiential systems, the design of experiences rather than how it has been. A lot of focus is on experiences. Governments are focusing on experience. Retail sector, every sector, healthcare, everybody's focusing on experiences. How does that impact your industry? How do you design and build anything that you do with that experience in mind? You've got to start doing that, right? In the future, the most successful businesses will employ experts in video game design and spatial computing, says Salesforce. So that's the future. Are you starting to use virtual reality in your industry? Are you starting to use this augmented reality? If not, it's fine. We're just getting started. But that's the direction we need to get into. Mobility is undoubtedly something that's also impacting the world a lot. We all are living mobile. The world has gone from desktop computing to laptop computing to tablets to mobile devices. And guess what? The future, the next 15 to 20 years, we won't even have mobile devices. Right? The cell phones that we have, we're not going to have them anymore because that will move, that function will move to something else. Embedded virtual reality technology in our glasses, where now I potentially can see another different world in 3D overlaid on top of what I'm seeing through my glasses. And it'll be voice-driven, it'll be gesture-driven, and that technology is in prototype stages right now. And that's where we're headed. And last but not least, something called tokenization. Forbes says the future will be tokenized. And tokenization is an offshoot of distributed economy. It's an offshoot of cryptocurrencies. It's an offshoot of blockchain technology. And we need to understand all those fundamental underlying things in order to understand this tokenization, decentralization, right? You know where I'm pointing to. I'm pointing towards there's a lot of things we need to understand. And the time to do that is right now. We have to start reading, listening, understanding, watching the right content, talking to the right people right this second, right? Don't feel left alone. And my question is, what do you see as a big impact disruptor for business in future, right? Let's have it. Who would like to ask me this? I want to know from you, what is that big disruptor? I'm just going to ask it to two people. Anybody who wants to raise their hand here and just shout it out, please do that. I really, really want to understand it. What do you see as a big impact, big disruptor for your business in the future? What about this side? Anybody? What is a disruptor in your industry? Come on, don't be shy. Let's hear it. Sorry? Labor shortage. Labor shortage is a big disruptor. Can technology solve it? Why is there a labor shortage? Are not enough people becoming part of the industry anymore? Is there not enough curriculum in schools and colleges and universities that's moving those people up the chain? Isn't there a lot of skilled workers who are doing that? And we need to understand that and see, is technology able to help that? Anybody from this side? This side is heavy right now, folks. They're winning. Come on. Decarbonization. Big, giant issue. Decarbonization. You can't just go in and solve it on your own, but it's an industry-level conversation. Thank you. That a forum like this can address at a national level. So thank you for those two things. Let's talk about three of my favorite technology areas. I call this the trifecta that will impact everybody's industry. And they're, again, from a technology perspective. These will be part of your industry in the next few years, if not the next decade. So but we have to start on that journey right now. The first one does exactly this. It brings peace of mind. It takes the worry away. It takes a lot of pain away from everyday work, everyday challenges. And that technology area is blockchain technology. It brings peace of mind. It does that in many different ways, and I'll talk about the few ways it can help your industry and the path you can get started on, okay? Blockchain technology matters because from its inception a few decades ago to the rapid acceleration with the launch of Bitcoin about 12 years ago, everybody started noticing blockchain technology. What is this technology? And today, many industries are using it. They've started using it. They plan to use it. Digital rights, debt industry, voting rights, title records, global payments, remittances. Many of these industries are now working with blockchain to solve a big challenge with payments, with real-time payments. And although this technology is not predominant in your industry, it's just begin to take off, it will be big in the next few years to the next decade. We have to pay attention to it right now. You have something that's giving rise to cryptocurrencies and non-fungible tokens. You have the impact it's making in, let's say, the insurance industry, which has a $40 billion problem with fraudulent claims. But what can it do for the construction industry? Well, reduce late payments, remediations, disputes. It can eliminate and significantly lower cash flow, the cash flow crises that everybody's facing within this industry by making payments real time, by reducing the time it takes to hold those payments, approve those invoices, and then send the payments through. It's going to completely change that. Contract automation through smart contracts, and we hear this a lot, smart contracts. We've got to dig in deeper and find out ways how to enable those smart contracts, and what do they really mean for the industry. Increase efficiency, control project costs, and with BIM and a combination of blockchain and BIM, really change the efficiency levels at the industry. Now, I know maybe just one of you can't do it all, or maybe two companies amongst you can't do it, but many of you together can be part of that conversation and the change that it's going to create. I don't have time to talk about everything in this session, but I just want to point you in the right direction. And if we end up solving these problem areas for the industry, I think that's a big win. That's a big win. And if blockchain can help do that, well, how do we get to the next step, right? Let's think as innovators and disruptors ourselves. How can you move to the next step? There's the second area of technology that I'm really passionate about, and it's artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a combination of tens and hundreds of different other things. But in general, it automates. It creates this unprecedented level of automation through machine learning, where computers are learning through data. A lot of data is fed to a computer or a system or a machine, It learns patterns, it learns the combinations, it learns the relationships, and it's able to then make a decision based on what it has learned, right? And the scenario we see in movies is far, far into the future. It's not realistic, where robots are doing everything on their own. That's really not realistic with artificial intelligence, at least not right now. And so AI is everywhere. It's in your Siri, it's in your Amazon, Netflix, Facebook. Every system is using artificial intelligence to a huge extent. We have to pay attention to it. In terms of work, it can be used in every conceivable industry, right? From managing traffic to logistics and freight to retail, connected cars, healthcare, and of course also the construction industry, right? Some of the things it can help you do, risk mitigation, is analyze the critical path, the path to lowering risk to this enormous amount of data that AI can analyze and recommend changes that, hey, based on 1,000 or 10,000 projects that I'm studying, and AI would say this, I really believe here's a way to cut costs and here's what you need to do in order to do that. Make job sites more productive by addressing challenges with security, with personal safety. Address labor shortages, off-site construction, post-construction. There's a lot of things that it can be applied to, and it cannot be done in one single day, but we have to get started. If you're a leader within your firm, your organization, your company, this should be your task going forward, is to look at these technology changes and trends and create an initiative based on this at a leadership level and say, hey, what are we going to do about these 2-3 different technology areas for the next 2, 5, 10 years, right? You've got to have a vision of changing things. And we also have something called the Internet of Things. This is super connectivity. This is the broadband-enabled, 5G-enabled connectivity between different devices. This is the evolution of smart cities, cities that you're going to construct. You are already potentially constructing and working on in many different ways, and that are super connected, where cities are generating data, where roads and buildings are generating data. But guess what? The foundation of those has to be laid down by you and your companies, your vendors, your providers, your design firms, your architect companies. Everybody will come together to create the future as dictated by the Internet of Things. So they say that 8.74 billion devices are connected with the Internet of Things by 2020. And by 2030, it'll balloon up to 25 billion devices. And this is your Tesla car. This is your automated sprinkler system. This is every sensor connected thing out there in the world that has Internet of Things enabled. There are many cities today that are automated, that have many functions automated. The city of Barcelona, the city of Nur Sultan in Kazakhstan, New York is one of the top ranked smart city in the world, right? We've got to embed ourselves into this new conversation about building, developing smart infrastructure, smart cities. Here's the future. Here are connected cities of the future where everything will be automated, everything will be connected, well, with the hopes of being able to manage things in a different way, with more efficiency, right? This is your garbage bins connected to a sensor that send a signal to the municipality saying, hey, I am full, or I'm actually not full. Do not come to collect the garbage today. And that saves on gas. That saves on people time. And that's the efficiency that it's creating as an example. The Internet of Things in the construction industry is a foundational technology for smart cities, for the future. Help with the real-time information, real-time data. Is anybody here working with 5G technology with anything, with any of your projects right now? Is it on your, on your dashboard? Anybody? You just raise your hand. Okay, we've got a few people here, and I think we have a few people here. So that's exciting. That's exciting to see the rollout of 5G and what you're doing with your projects. There are many ecosystems that are developing as a result of that, technology ecosystems. And here they are in your industry. Here's the tech market map for your industry with collaboration software, billing project software, design software, different marketplaces for the construction industry. These are companies, startups, established companies in the technology space that are changing your technology landscape. If you don't know many of them, well, start learning about them and seeing what they do. You never know what you're missing, right? If none of these are a vendor for you, then start talking to them, right? And find out what can they do for you in order to change what you're doing, in order to create that efficiency. You've got a next generation commerce, e-com companies that are working with building materials only, in home remodeling, in third-party handyman industry, smart home fixtures. You need to know these companies. You need to know what are they doing and where is the industry going? And why do they do the things that they do? Right? There are many other companies, and these charts are brought to you by CB Insights, really intense analytics and research company, and you should follow their newsletter and subscribe to them. You've got construction technology startups with the most corporate backers. Here are corporate-backed startups. So corporations are putting in a lot of money and funding to companies in order to create the next frontier, in order to work on the big things. Now, I don't know how much money you have as an organization, how much of it you can spend, how much of it you're investing. That's up to you to figure out. But investing in technologies of the future, being part of that, the future enablement is something very interesting for me. You've got to be part of something risky. I'm not saying buy any stocks or anything. I'm not saying that. But you've got to invest in the future. And if you find alignment in any future-related company, any technology that can change your industry, then please go ahead and investigate that, right? As a leadership, as an organization, invest in the future because it can change a lot. Digitization and task automation startups in construction. Thousands of companies are doing something incredible. 3D modeling and design, aerial intelligence, risk management and safety. You go and find your sweet spot and go figure out what they're doing, right? So can you analyze all these companies in the next one day, please? Good answer. Okay, but this is a process, right? But in the next 3 months, you can go through the exercise of figuring out, hey, who are the top 3 companies we need to speak to, or the top 5? But please get started on that. Okay, there's also the area of new building materials, and there's tons and tons and tons. This is one example of an area that you can invest in is new building materials. There's at least 25 different new materials that are under research phase, under study, under prototyping. You've got to figure out which one is the best. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you. You've got to be part of that conversation now. Times have changed. You'll be able to get a copy of these slides, so you'll be able to learn all those details later on. Question, your take on today and in the future. What do you think you need to do, right, in order to go from where you are as an industry today to, let's say, 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line? Let's have some response. Who would like to help us understand what's your opinion on that? Today and 20 years from now, what do you see one change that you would want to enable to take you 20 years down the line? I can't see here, and if you're raising your hand, let's have it. Anybody from this side? Anybody from anywhere, just say, I've got an answer for you. I'm not moving ahead with this session unless I don't hear from 2 people. Yes, go ahead.
I have an answer for it. We talked about it yesterday in some of our meetings. And if you look around, we need a much younger, more creative presence here to keep our young people engaged and to help. They'll understand this way better than I think I do. I'll speak for myself. But we need to somehow engage that younger audience who are excited about our industry, to keep them excited and to encourage their creativity. That's the first thing I think we need.
Thank you so much, yeah. And that's really, really well said. When I was watching everybody in this conference over the last day or 2, I didn't notice many young people, like literally people out of the university, and you see them at different conferences and events. I didn't notice a lot of those people, and that is definitely a challenge, that if we were to wave a magic wand and all of a sudden we had 50% more younger people, would that change the industry? Well, potentially yes, because they are understanding what the future looks like. They just have a different Mindset, maybe one of those things. But thank you, that's such a valid thing. How can we change that? What should we do? And that should be your conversation within these 2 or 3 days. And go back with a solution. That this is what I need to do as an organization to create that change. Maybe hire more people, maybe do something else, right? One more, I need a response from this side because now they're heavy. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think this is all great. Thanks. This is very insightful. But the bias for action is where I think we lack. What I mean by that, we've been talking about things like sustainability since the 1980s. Where are we today? So you talk about carbon. Somebody mentioned carbon. I'm going to talk about that today. What are we all doing about it? We're talking about it. Yeah. What's the bias for action?
Okay.
So how do we kind of get that in front of us as a CII?
Okay, thank you so much. So we're talking about bias and big hand. That's a great point. What are we doing? Are we lacking action? Are we just observing this change that's happening in the industry and just watching from the sidelines and watching the ship go down? Are we doing that? I don't think so. I think everybody is looking for everybody else to take action. And let me tell you, when you see other people take action, you just get motivated to take action, to create change. So I think that a lot of that needs to happen. Maybe the industry needs to talk more about the success. And I think with this new alliance, the CURT and CII alliance, you guys are in trouble because now you probably will see a lot more activity, a lot more engagement, and they will ask you for feedback and response. So there's a lot of that potentially going to happen, which should be a good kickoff for this larger change, and these issues can be addressed. So thank you for that. Let's talk about future readiness. Maybe this will answer a few of the questions, the problems, the challenge areas that we're talking about. How can we be future ready? We're not talking about future proofing ourselves. We're not going to future proof, but future ready. How do you go with the times? How do you become part of the times? So there's something that we've developed called the Future Readiness Framework, and we analyze businesses, organizations in 7, actually in addition to technology, 8 different areas of impact, right? Technology is an enabler for all of the above 7, but here are some of those that I can talk about in the next few minutes. But we really believe that we are living in a new age of engagement, and engagement goes to your communication, your PR, your sales pitch, your who you are as a company, and those conversations, right? You have to engage with the community, the business world, your customers, your clients in a much different way than you were in the last 10, 15 years. When you call your customer, your prospect, your partner, guess what they're busy with? With other things that are taking their time, their cell phone, their emails, all of those things. There's way too much distraction today. So in order to have that quality conversation, that quality relationship, you've got to change the way you engage. There's many different ways you can do that. We don't have time for all of that. But let me tell you a couple of facts. 85% of employees are not engaged in the workplace. 85%. And this is a Gallup survey that happened a few years ago. 81% of employees are considering leaving their jobs. This is across different industries in the world in general. And 1 in 3 professionals cite boredom as their main reason to leave their jobs. People are bored at work. They don't know what to do, right? So are you extracting the maximum value from your employees? Are they getting maximum value from you as an organization? Because guess what? The days of paying people for their time and people coming to work for a paycheck, those days are over. It doesn't work anymore. Remember I told you before that we're heading into the Great Resignation. People don't care about money anymore, right? And the younger generation, right? I don't have time to go into all the generations. In fact, there's a slide in the next few minutes. I'll talk about it. But the world is changing the way we engage. And it goes in many different disciplines of your business. And as a leadership, you have to consider different areas of your organization. Sales, marketing, operations, education, partnerships, community engagement. All of these have a level of engagement that needs to change. You have to change it to be current. Number 2 is learning. With all the bombardment of technology, different things that are happening right now, what are you doing as an organization to upskill your employees, all your teams, your workers, your construction site people? Everybody from top to bottom, what are you doing to change the way they understand the industry and they understand business? So learning, reskilling, upskilling has to be a big part of your organization, because if you don't have people who are informed and knowledgeable, they'll start leaving, or you'll stop being competitive because everybody else is working on their game. A Clear Company says that 68% of employees say training and development is the company's most important policy. So if you don't have training and development embedded into the organization today, you're going to see problems. And most employees don't believe they're reaching their full potential, about 74%, because they're not being trained well. They're not learning enough on their job. 40% of employees with poor training will leave the company within the first year. So you've employed someone, there's no adequate training for them, guess what? They'll leave, right? So don't be surprised if they leave. Well, go and look at your training. Go and look at your initiatives of upskilling and teaching them what to do. It's very, very important to do that. There are many incredible examples of learning organizations, companies who invest a lot of money into the people that they employ. And some of their names are here with different initiatives, different ways they engage people, and I can share a lot of information with you about that. But General Electric, Microsoft, Airbnb, Earls, Thrive, Overdrive, Honeywell, thousands of companies have mastered how to keep employees engaged. It has to be a fundamental pillar for your business. There's obviously the people side of things. How do you take care of your people, and according to Richard Branson, take care of your people so that they take care of your customers, right? You've got to do that. And without saying this, generations are changing guard. There's many different generations at work now, from boomers to Gen X, millennials, post-millennial generation. We need to understand who needs what in order to be productive, in order to add value to the organization, to the business. And if you don't understand that, you want other people to tell you that, you've got to figure that out for your organization. Every organization is unique, right? We've got to figure that out. We just heard about the worker shortage, and that's an ongoing challenge with the industry. I really believe there aren't many qualified people that are going through university, skill trade training, that are going through that whole process. And I don't believe the construction industry is portraying itself and positioning itself to be an industry that people should be part of. And many industries are facing this problem. It's not just you. The accounting industry. Nobody wants to be an accountant anymore. Nobody wants to spend 140 hours a week working on crunching numbers, right? And they're facing this problem. But some companies, the big four, PwC, EY, Deloitte, they have mastered it, because now they go down to the high school level to get people involved in their organizations and to get them in right at that level. Do you need to have a program? Do you need to have an alliance with a university, a college, a training institute to start engaging with the next generation right at that level? Now, this is fundamental organization redesign, folks, right? Because we're talking about something very serious here. We've got to figure this one out. There's many, many things that young people are passionate about, and I just wanted to put this up, the UN Sustainability Development Goals. Many of you might have these as part of your organization's vision, but this is what younger generations are passionate about: a cause, a purpose, a reason to do something. And you need to start incorporating one or more of these in your workplace, whether it's attaching yourself with a charity cause, with a sustainability development goal. We heard about decarbonization earlier, but we're talking about carbon change. We're talking about healthcare. We're talking about many different things, climate change. Make one or more of these things part of your organization so that it starts drawing the talent towards you. And seriously, support these causes, right? This is a much bigger conversation than just this session, but pointing you to the right direction here. There's other elements: accountability, collaboration, culture, and we heard earlier, execution, implementation, application of all these ideas, this learning that you will have here today, tomorrow, for the next few days. How do you take all of this and create an action plan from that and start implementing that in your organization? If you don't do that, then coming here has been just a travel exercise, right? I would really suggest minimize your emails, minimize your tasks that don't need your attention, that can be postponed for 2-3 days, and spend every single minute here meeting with people, talking to them, figuring out what to do, what they're doing, creating some partnerships and alliances that will help you do better in the next 6 months to the next 60 years, right? Execution is by far the most important thing at work, right? There are so many stats, so many different numbers I can crunch on execution. In 2016, the HBR said 67% of well-formulated strategies failed due to poor execution. And we can go on and on and on, right? So we've got to start executing what we want to execute on. I want to talk about, and this is almost the end of my session. I will try and take a few questions at the end as well. But I want to talk about the next frontier. What will be the next frontier for you? Let's not think about the immediate today, right, in this session. Let's think about the future. Let's think about the next 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years of your business, of your organization, of the industry, and how can we change that? What can we do to create a positive impact? It could be any of these. Maybe one of your companies is constructing a structure on a new planet, right? If Jeff Bezos or Richard Branson or Elon Musk is actually going to a different planet, who amongst you can visualize that today and say, hey, we want to do that? It's a moonshot. Maybe you're working with unstable economies or a climate change impacted world or political instability. And guess what? If Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies hit the world, maybe in the next 10, 15 to 20 years, we have a new financial system. These are just ideas that can change the world in the next decade or so. What is the next frontier going to be for your organization, and how are you going to be part of that, right? You're already capable of doing it. What are you going to do? I want to leave you with this thought, as a parting thought, that for things to change, you have to change. And this is Jim Rohn, one of my most favorite people in the world. And he said this, that for things to change, you have to change. For things to change, you have to change. Think about it. What can you change in the world? What can you create in the world? How can you impact yourself? Stop looking at others to create change. What can you do, right? And with that, we have a last video for a couple of minutes. Let's play that. I want to leave you with the thought about the future, that the future is actually here. It's not a distant tomorrow. We're creating it right now. You're building it. Your industries, your companies, your organizations are building the bridges, the roads, the buildings, the infrastructure that we're seeing in our cities, our towns, at the airport, everywhere. We're living in what you have constructed. And there's no denying the fact that your industry is one of the most profound industries and strong industries that can power the world, but we have challenges. We're battling challenges such as climate change. We're battling the pandemic, the changes the pandemic has brought, war, political instability. We're doing all of that. How do you move forward in an era of technology, in an era where you really have to recreate your businesses? And I believe that the next frontier is what should be on your agenda right now, and how can you be an incredible provider of services, of products, of technologies to everybody else. And we're doing that right now. The race has kicked off. Civilians are already in space. And so the question is, are you ready to build the future, going away from this conference and change the way you see industry, to change the way we do things? And you can do it. You can do it by starting to think right here, right now, and today. You've got to start doing that right here, right now, and today, ladies and gentlemen. And don't waste a minute on anything else. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm more than happy to take a question or two if you want. Please join me on stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. That was outstanding, very thought-provoking, so thank you so much. I'm Daniel Groves. I'm going to be the MC throughout the rest of the morning, and I'm with Construction Users Roundtable, And I'm going to start right now. We got a lot of questions during that presentation, and I know we only have a limited amount of time, so I'm going to see if I can ask a couple of them in a way that will sort of sum up the sentiment of this. Let's start with this one. The construction industry is famously slow to adopt new technology. Everyone's conservative, and they want others to prove the concept first. Another reason, perhaps, is that our industry tends to be pretty low margin, and so that's a challenge as well. If you look at that toilet example, you see of how, slow adoption of something like that. How do we get a stodgy industry like construction industry to wake up and lead this?
I think we have to build our resilience to change. We have to take smaller risks every single day, every single week, every single month in order to do this big, big, big change. Don't think about moving a mountain, but start moving one step ahead. And that's what I would suggest. And soon enough, you will realize that you've done incredible stuff because you took that first step. So a good way to do that is create your alliances here. Build your partnerships. Go back from this conference with 3 different contacts that you can build things with. You can explore and do new things. And that should start right now, folks. We don't have a lot of time.
Yep, take the next step. Great. You mentioned in your presentation about decentralization and how key that is going to be. How do you see decentralized technology, which I think is summed up in many ways by blockchain technology, how do you see that innovating the construction industry?
I think a predominant result of that will be decentralization of the financial side of the industry, where digital form of payments will impact how your business interacts with money in general. You're seeing a trend in China where China is digitizing the yuan. So their own currency is being digitized and it'll be used like a cryptocurrency. That has already happened. They've kicked out cryptocurrency miners and a bunch of different companies. So I see the digital currency side of things maybe taking precedence. You're also looking at smart contracts where you can eliminate a lot of risk with delays, with processes, with general delays in the industry, and inefficiency that's taken care of by smart contracts. So please look into that and figure out how can you use those and be part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it was referenced earlier by Stephen Mulvin, Greg Sizemore at the beginning of what CURT and CII are doing in terms of OS2 and smart contracts is one of the things there. So we are attempting to address that. Let me ask this question too then. One of the things you mentioned on one of the slides was about how artificial intelligence could help solve the labor shortage. And obviously there's, I think, a little bit of, it's a little unbelievable. Can't think of that word. But how can AI help solve the construction labor shortage in our industry?
So right now, there's a couple of ways we can look at this. Right now, we have to look at how much information and data is the industry generating. Yeah. In order for artificial intelligence to kind of find solutions, it has to feed on this information and data the industry generates. I think we're at a very initial stage of that. Many different cities have what is called open data sets, where they provide these open data sets to companies, and artificial intelligence is learning through that, right? This is big data. There's a lot of that data coming through. So I think AI companies need to start working with you guys to figure out what data can we learn from, how can machine learning figure out the challenges, and how can we figure out solutions. But it could come in many different ways, from optimizing processes to logistics to money trails to how to enable the best labor force timing. It could have impact in many different situations. I showed you the different companies that are doing that right now from a technology perspective. Start looking at the AI companies within your industry and seeing what problem are they solving and how are they trying to solve it. I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah, good. Let me come back to blockchain. Blockchain is a little bit esoteric. I mean, we've all heard it, but I'm not sure everybody understands precisely what that means. I think we've been struggling as an industry on how to use blockchain. How would blockchain, to where the rubber meets the road, how would blockchain work for an EPC contractor, do you think? Do you have an example of where that could be implemented for a contractor?
I can think of the financial system right now, but here's what's going to happen. I directed a documentary called Blockchain City 2 years ago. It's available on YouTube, on Amazon Prime. Please watch it. It's called Blockchain City. Just Google that in Google and you'll find it. I asked a really important person in the blockchain world about what is the impact of blockchain on the everyday world, Joseph Lubin. And he said, Everyday people will never see blockchain. They will never touch it. They will never know what's happening to it. It's the same thing as you learning about a database that's powering your cell phone or your computer. We don't go into that. We just use Excel, we use Windows, and we're good with it. So I think we need to kind of separate ourselves from that technical conversation generally, and it's something maybe you don't want to hear, but we have to. Let's look at the impact it creates in the financial side of things, on the efficiency side of things, on the cryptocurrency side of things. How do those things impact the industry, and how do those create efficiency? And subsequently, let's go into what is blockchain, and what is the hash, and what is cryptography. That's a really technical conversation. But I would look into smart contracts again, and that can revolutionize the lives of contractors. If payments are made automatically after you've completed a job, if there's no delays in being paid or paying different parties in the industry, I think that's the biggest piece of what blockchain can do, is solve the payment delays and the escrow problem generally in industry.
That is a significant problem, a significant challenge in our industry. And one other thing occurs to me when you were saying that is, you don't have to understand blockchain, but its value is real. And one of the key areas, I think, is an area of trust. That decentralization allows that data, immutable data, to create trust in a way that isn't happening necessarily through contractual relationships.
Yep.
Ian, great job. Thank you for such a thought-provoking presentation. And let's give him one more round of applause.
Thanks for having me, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And let me invite Stephen Malva to the stage.
Yep.
Thank you, Ian.
Stephen, you're welcome. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah,
Thank you.
really appreciate it. It was an awesome presentation, very insightful, and a great way to start the conference.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
So I've got about 5 minutes to talk about our individual awards from CII, and then we're going to take a break. The break, by the way, will be in the exhibit space, the same place that you had breakfast this morning. So in 2019, CII's executive committee and CII took a look at all the different awards that we were giving. And so these individual awards were the culmination of that, replacing a lot of the committee-level individual awards that we had. We did this in 2019, but of course we didn't have a conference in 2020 due to the pandemic. So our executive committee decided in June that we should actually award 2 years' worth of individual awards for outstanding academic, student, and volunteers. So there's actually a total of 8 award winners in these 3 different categories. When I talk about who the people are who are winning the awards, we've got 5 of the 8 people with us today. I'll just ask them to stand in place and remain standing because we only have 5 minutes. But then at the conclusion of that, if they could come forward as we go into the break, we want to take a few photos as well. Okay. So our first Outstanding Academic Award goes to Dr. Thais Alves. She's at the San Diego State University. Thais was one of 3 principal investigators on Research Team 362 on collaborative scheduling. And this team was challenged to consider methods of scheduling beyond critical path method. And other industries had begun to explore this, other collaborative methods, and we were trying to see if that could be used as a replacement for critical path. There were probably a dozen members of her research team that nominated her for this award. And she also has prior experience at CII on Research Team 308 on supplier quality practices. So congratulations to Thais. The other Outstanding Academic Award is for Dr. Brian Franz. He's at the University of Florida. He was nominated for his work as the academic advisor for our Power, Utilities, and Infrastructure Sector Committee. They had very limited funds, but he worked with another professor at Clemson University to start understanding how supply chain practices could be destroying value on power, utilities, and infrastructure type projects. He's been a very eager leader in the PUI committee. He's also conducted prior research for CII. We actually funded that, or co-funded it with the Charles Pankow Foundation on re-examining project delivery and how to maximize success on integrated projects. So Like Thais, Brian is an outstanding researcher, very deserving of this award. We have 2 outstanding student awards. The first is for Chwani He. He's a graduate student, or was a graduate student at North Carolina State University. He also worked with Thais and the other faculty on Research Team 362 on collaborative scheduling. As part of this work, he was pretty instrumental in coming up with a research methodology that is known as information theory analysis. So they use this technique to really evaluate their survey data and to figure out how scheduling practices and scheduling trends could be incorporated to maximize KPIs on safety and cost and quality and team health and a lot of other things. So the research team nominated Chwani for this deserving award. The other outstanding student award, Jongwon Ma. Jongwon was the graduate student on Research Team 364 on advanced work packaging for integrated practices for completions, commissioning, and startup. So not only was he helpful with the meetings, but the work that he did to advance the research itself was what captured the nominations from the research team members. So they also said he has been extremely proactive and excellent at following up with all the different deadlines and helping the team complete its mission. And he's at the University of Texas at Austin. We have 4 outstanding volunteer awards. The first is for Annabella Martin with Hilti. She's really stepped up time and again to help CII. She currently serves as the chair of our supply chain community. She's really been helping a lot of our sectors meet their initiatives, especially with the power utilities and infrastructure sector lately. She's been praised by many, many members for her work. The second one, Keith Kritzer with ExxonMobil. He's the current chair of CII's Funded Studies Committee, and before that he was on our research committee. And I can't see everybody, so I think they're around here somewhere. There's Keith. And the thing that really stood out and why he was nominated for this is just his dedication to being on research teams and helping CII in that task is really commendable. He actually helped with all the different research teams that you're going to see today and tomorrow, attended every one of their practice sessions and had great comments and helped them out a lot. The third one, Ted Weitzman, Ted with Worley. He was one of the founding chairs for one of our technology committees. He was very active at FIATech prior to that. He's continued to stay involved with CII through 2 different transitions with his employers, starting at Southern Company, moving to Constructex, and now to Worley. So to stay involved through all of that is extremely commendable. He was a member of our joint working group on AWP data standards. That's much acclaimed, seminal work, and we just really appreciate everything that you're doing, especially now the work on interoperability. And last but not least, Todd Sutton. Todd's with Zachary Corporation. Todd volunteers on basically every technology team, including our Horizon 360 team. He's a pioneer in the application of technology in our business. If you don't know Todd, you need to. He basically, everything he learns, he brings back into CII. He created some case studies on our virtual reality team. He's always giving of his personal time. He's bringing everything he's learning in, and so this is why he was nominated as well. So please join me in congratulating the excellent work of our academics, our students, and our volunteers. And that'll conclude this portion of the morning session. Enjoy your break. We're going to be back, I think, Palmer, in about 35 to 40 minutes.